Please don't mind the fact that I'm like dripping wet. This is not sweat. I just came from the shower because it's ridiculously hot here. Summer, summer. The Imitation Game is directed by Morton Tildum. It's written by Graham Moore. It's based on the book Alan Turing, The Enigma by Andrew Hodges and stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Keira Knightley, Alex Lothar, Mark Strong, and Charles Dance. And The Imitation Game is the story of the genius mathematician Alan Turing, who back then in World War II was recruited to help crack the German Enigma machine, which was a device that the Nazis used to send each other coded messages during the war. And as he tries to figure out how to crack this machine, he has to convince the people around him that what he's doing is not useless, and he has to protect a secret that he has that if it's discovered might end up, sending him to prison. And I realize it's really easy to find out what this secret is. I mean, it's easy if you just Google search his name, or it's literally in the first paragraph of the Imitation Game's Wikipedia page. But I don't want to say what it is in case you don't know anything about Alan Turing, or if you haven't watched any trailers for this movie. Because the way they treat it in the movie is like, it's really a secret. It's really like kind of like a plot revelation, so I won't mention it. And I really loved watching The Imitation Game. I think it's a very handsome looking movie. It's a very, very intriguing story also. It works on different levels, and of course it has this really great performance from Benedict Cumberbatch at the very center. And the period detail in The Imitation Game is top notch. It's really, really great all around, and what's really impressive is that they have 3 time periods throughout this movie. This movie bounces between these 3 different time periods, and it's really great what they do is because the differences between these time periods is very, very subtle, because it's all taking place in like England or Britain, if I'm not mistaken. And the differences are so small, but they're enough to really kind of make each time period feel very distinct from one another. So even if the movie doesn't show you like the year, like you're in a different time period. The cinematography of the movie also helps further this effect by making the colors like slightly darker as you go forward in time. So when you're in the 20s, I believe, with the young Alan Turing, like it's all very, very bright. During the main chunk of the story in the 40s, when Alan Turing is really trying to crack the machine, it's like kind of like normal-ish lighting. But when you go forward in time to the 50s, when he's being investigated, like the colors are a lot murkier, they're a lot more depressing. And Alexandre Desplat's score for this movie really, I think, perfectly represents like the gears turning in Alan Turing's mind. It's a very, very good score. And it always has this hint of like mystery or sadness underneath it, which I think really represents the story very well. The editing also has to be given credit, in my opinion, in that events throughout the movie still remain tense even if no one fires any guns, or if you already know what's gonna happen, like they still make it really, really intriguing to watch. The story really does work on multiple levels simultaneously. This is a thriller, definitely. This is also a war film and a period film, and it's also deep down a human drama. That's like the main chunk of this movie, and it doesn't like switch from one to the other. It's really all working on all these levels at the same time. And The Imitation Game is a great title, really. I mean, it really highlights the thriller aspects on the surface, like them trying to imitate the Enigma machine so they can crack it, but at the same time it hints at the drama aspects also. It hints at what Alan Turing is just trying to be in his life. And speaking of Alan Turing, the character of Alan Turing himself is very, very strong and complex. I don't know how accurate this portrayal is to the actual man, Alan Turing, but the way he's drawn in this movie there's so much mystery behind him, and I like how by the end of the movie he's still kind of a mystery. And in terms of acting, it's great. I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, of course, is typically excellent in this role. And what he does here is that he's really able to convey this character's history through every little tiny gesture and action. It's very, very impressive, and you really can feel this guy's frustration as the movie goes on. And by the end of the movie, he just has this air of hopelessness about him, and you feel so much for this dude. He's very, very good at it. Keira Knightley is also in this movie, and of course she's got a lot of acclaim for it. She got her Oscar nomination for this role. I personally wasn't as impressed with her in this movie like some other people, but it's probably one of her best roles because of how her character Joan Clark has a lot of inner strength, and she really was able to put that on screen as well. But the one performance I really want to highlight here is from the young Alex Lothar, who plays the young Alan Turing in the 20s, and he blew me away because this kid doesn't look anything like Benedict Cumberbatch. So at first I was thinking like, where is this guy going? But by the end of the movie, he really made me believe that he was the young Alan Turing. Like the way he mirrored Cumberbatch's performance was so good. The way he spoke, the way he moved, he was really, really great. And the way Morton Tildum, the director, directs this movie, he definitely plays it more as a drama than a war thriller with like that scientific backbone in it, and that's personally okay for me. Like this, that's really for me a sign that Martin Tildum knows that he can't tackle everything at once. He knows what he wants to focus on, what he wants his movie to be. And breaking the scenes where they try to crack Enigma, they're really really exciting. But Martin Tilda makes it clear that there's a lot more going on, that even after their objectives are done, there's still a lot more story to go. And what's interesting is that a lot of the drama in the movie is physically pretty distant. Like there's a scene where they realize that they can't act on every message they might intercept, and the drama and the horror of that is kind of it hits you, but like the actual physical consequences of their actions are gonna happen like miles away. You don't even see it on screen. And there are certain character revelations that when they happen, they just kind of happen and then they pass, but then you just feel the effect. It's very hard to describe what I mean, but like the drama is very, very well done. If I have any flaws in the movie, it's that there's some unnecessary fragmentation in the narrative. This is presented like a fragmented narrative of sorts, and the way they jump between time periods, some of it I think is unnecessary. It ends up being like really just confusing for some reason. Like I don't know why they had to flash forward some parts near the beginning of the movie. And while I am fine with the drama aspects being front and center, I did think that a lot of the thriller aspects and the scientific stuff was a bit lacking. I really wanted to know how they were code breaking this thing exactly. There's this whole subplot about a Soviet spy that I think didn't really go anywhere, didn't really add to the story. But in the end, I will say that The Imitation Game is still a great movie, I think. If you're trying to watch every Oscar nominee for Best Picture this year, I think it should be noted that The Imitation Game I found is the most conventional out of all of them. It's the most formula, but that's not a bad thing. In fact, I think formula, when done well, can be better than some like more original things. So I'm sweating like a pig. Thank you for watching. These are my thoughts on The Imitation Game. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with it or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.